start our first round. And the topic is pivoting. So quarantine life has affected all of us, especially our businesses and economy. I said this last event that we're not all in the same boat, but we're definitely all in the same storm. Some of us are working from home, some of us are furloughed or laid off, some completely out of work, and some have our own businesses but have had to completely restructure how we run things due to the pandemic. We've all had to pivot in some way. To pivot is to make a change in policy, position, or strategy. And I think what the coronapocalypse has forced us to realize is that pivoting isn't plan B, it's just part of the process. And some of us are just trying to survive right now, and some of us have figured out how to survive, and we're trying to figure out how to thrive. But either way, the situation is new to all of us, and we're all just trying to learn and adjust together. So our discussion panel today is super dynamic in terms of experience and industries. So we're going to talk about how we've each individually had to pivot in order to survive and or thrive during quarantine. We're going to talk about what's been the hardest part about quarantine in regards to our own careers and personal lives, and how we've used our career and passion to stay sane and focused on the big picture, because I think that's hard to do right now because everything is so uncertain. And with that being said, we're going to start with Kasha. So Kasha, you were already in a transitional period just before the shutdown. You were stepping away from Fierce and Regal and getting ready to launch your own brand. So how has quarantine life affected your reinvention, and how have you had to pivot, and how have you stayed focused on the big picture through all of it?
I think
I unmuted you.
Thanks. I want to start with giving you guys just a little bit of background. 2019 was hugely about personal growth for me. I made the major decision to step away from the family business, which, as Christina alluded to, is New Balance. And I joined Fierce and Regal as a partner and a CEO, and the experience was invaluable. I learned a ton. It was rewarding. I grew as an entrepreneur. But I recently started to shift my focus on my personal brand. And that shift kind of started right before the lockdown began. So I'm working on something super exciting. I'm hoping to launch in March, and I can't wait to be able to tell you guys more about it. But as exciting as this sounds, the uncertainty of the situation that we're all facing right now has been extremely challenging and anxiety provoking for me, to say the least. On a personal level, I make it a point to work out every single day, whether it's a hard workout, strength training, whether it's just a long walk to clear my head. It helps on the days where my mind is racing, I have that pit in my stomach. I've actually been trying CBD supplements. I found a brand out of Boston called Beam, and they have a clarity supplement that's really helped me to stay relaxed and stay focused. And they use all natural ingredients, so that's been great. And then on a personal level, on a professional level, as an extrovert, this obviously, interaction with humans is extremely important to my well-being. And so not being able to have those in-person meetings has made it really challenging for me to feel motivated and energized and to feel productive. I'm also a planner. So with manufacturers being closed and fabric vendors being closed and buyers canceling all of their appointments with prospective partners, it's been really hard to work without a firm timeline in mind. It's created a real roadblock for me. And so all of that said, now we're on to the pivoting part. In order to be a successful entrepreneur, I truly believe that you have to be able to turn a negative into a positive. and really be able to identify an opportunity within a challenge. And, you know, there are curveballs thrown at us every single day. And if we don't have a resilient mentality, we're not going to get over the obstacles, and we're not going to be able to remind ourselves of what that end goal is. I, during this pandemic, have had to remind myself daily, sometimes hourly, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. This is a perfect time to really work on the strategic plans, the logistical plans, and then emerge from the darkness stronger than ever. So for me, the silver lining of the pandemic is just that, being able to pivot and wrap my head around the idea that this is an ideal time to hunker down, reinvent myself, reset, and quite frankly, just really focus on the not so glamorous elements of starting a new brand. So every day, that's what I'm trying to do.
I love it. That's amazing. And it's like, when else are you going to have like this dedicated time to just focus on yourself and everything you're trying to accomplish?
Right.
It's a blessing. I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
For most of us.
For most, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Kasha.
Yeah.
All right, Kayla, your career revolves around fitness and retail. And both industries have been directly affected by the shutdown. How did you pivot, and how have you used this time to thrive?
Yeah, so like Kasha, I'll go through a little bit of detail. So right before this, I've been in retail since I was in college. I worked at BB as a stylist when that was around, and kind of worked my way up. And I spent the majority of my career with Nordstrom. But right before we went into Corona, I actually accepted a new position with Athleta, which kind of brings my world of retail and fitness together in one position, which I am extremely excited about and am still excited about. But that was the week that we went into the shutdown. So I went in to sign my paperwork to be hired that week. And it was so crazy. I haven't even worked a single day there. I'm getting health insurance still, which is a blessing, but right before this, I was kind of going through a transition into a new job. I tested out the 9-to-5 life for about a year and a half, and I was like, this is not for me, and kind of made my way back into a store setting. But in terms of fitness, every Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. I'd hop into my car and drive to TrillFit to teach a 6 a.m. class. And what is amazing about pivoting and speaking about being like a total boss is that my leader at TrillFit, Heather, which she worked with Casa at New Balance actually, she is amazing, and we're offering free classes to all of our members and to anyone who wants to take them. So that was a blessing for us, because I'm now teaching 4 classes versus 1 a week. I'm home now, which is so crazy. I'm also an extrovert, so not having that face-to-face time with people is very, very difficult, but I can be face-to-face in a different way through Zoom and connecting more with people. So at a 6 a.m. class on Mission Hill, a lot of people can't get to that area that morning. Either you work on the other side of the city, or it's just tough to get there. I can't see as many people during that 6 a.m. class, but it's amazing. I had 60 people in my 7 a.m. class this past Monday, which is just kind of opening up the doors for not just me teaching, but the studio in general, and just being able to offer our services to a more diverse crew that can't get to the studio maybe when we have classes going on there, but can join us online, and just building that community. But pivoting is a major part of this, just kind of figuring out what I can do. If that means teaching while my boyfriend's sleeping in bed with his eye mask on and his headphones on, playing rain sounds. His phone played out loud this morning. I'm like, what are you listening to? He's like, they're crickets playing, because you had to teach and I still need to sleep. But it's just finding a way to make it happen. And like you said, I think this is a blessing for a lot of people, because for me, I never had time to slow down. I was always going, going, going. And I started Working Woman a little over 6 months ago. It's always been a dream of mine to have my own, something of my own, whether that's something on the side or something that I do full time eventually. I just really wanted to have something for myself. And I am surrounded by so many females who are empowering and have started something for themselves, or are a leader in whatever business that they are in. I find that so inspiring and encouraging. So I really wanted to start something for myself. And this has given me the time to pivot, as you guys were saying, and kind of figure out what I could do in this situation, but also slow down a little bit and figure out what I really want for myself. That was a lot of words.
I love it. I love it. You don't want to talk about how you started?
Oh, okay.
You need to tell the story about the tie-dye empire. Come on.
Okay, I honestly, it's been such a whirlwind. So I've been selling tie-dye for about 2 months. And I was in bed, like paralyzed when Corona first happened. I was like, what is going on? I was like in bed, just watching Netflix shows, but I couldn't even tell you what I was watching. They were just playing in the background. I was just laying there like a limp noodle. Like, I don't even know. But I didn't know what to do. I had no schedule. The gym was closed. I'm like, I can't punch a bag. I can't do anything. I was trying to go on walks. I was trying to run. And I couldn't bring myself to do anything. I'm like, you know what? Let's relook at this brand that you started and then forgot about, because I'm a very impulsive person. I just kind of start things on a whim and then start the next thing. I'm like, let me look at this. What can I do? What's trendy and fun? And I was like, let me just make some pieces for myself. So I went to whatever store was open. I was like, let me see what I can find here. And I picked up just a couple pieces. I grabbed some of my boyfriend's old branded sweatshirts from his job. And I was just like in my bathroom on the floor, just like tie-dyeing and like working with bleach and seeing what I could come up with. And I posted a couple of them, and a couple of my friends were like, I really want one. And I was like, okay, I'll drop one off to you. Like, I'll have it done tomorrow. But so many people responded to just a poll that I put up, because I am on social media and I love social media. And that's another way for me to connect and kind of have an outlet. But some people responded that they wanted one. I'm like, okay, let me just make this one style that I did. So I started with that one style, and that first style I found at Walmart. Like, I was just like, where can I buy a piece of clothing? TJ Maxx is not open. Marshall's is not open. I was like, I need toilet paper or whatever anyways. And I just kind of went through the active department, and I found this one like hoodie sweatshirt, and I was like, let me just see what I can do with this. And from that one piece, I then had to place like a 50-piece order from Walmart.com, because I bought every single piece that was at the Walmart in Quincy. And I kind of just grew from there, and it wasn't intentional. I didn't go into the store thinking I'm going to make this tie-dye and then pivot my brand into a tie-dye business. I was doing what I could to fill my time in the moment. And from there kind of blossomed all of these other pieces and doing customs, kind of figuring out what else people want and just really listening to what people are asking for at this time, which everyone's at home. I don't have enough sweatpants. I was going through the same 2 sweatpants, like washing them every other day and just kind of figuring out what I could do. So that's kind of how it started.
I love it. I love it. A passion project turned into an empire, a tie-dye empire. Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.
All right. Now, last but not least for round 1, well, actually I'm last, but like out of the guests, we have Ashley. So Ashley, staying in the know and entertainment are your forte. But how does that work with a full coronavirus takeover? How have you had to re-strategize and pivot in terms of your morning show and the mentality of like the show must go on regardless of what's going on around us?
Well, I first want to say that this is my first Zoom with this many people, so I can't help. I'm like creepily staring at all of you if you've caught me, but I clearly feel like is this Anastasia? Are you guys doing hookah? Is this hookah happening? Yeah, why? I want to be there. So much respect. If there was no Rona, I would be, and you're eating salad. You're doing hookah and salad. Good for you guys. About that. Okay, so, well, first and foremost, like, I feel like my story is going to be a little different because obviously our job is to, you know, make people laugh and entertain them. And Rona is just obviously ruining everything, and it's tough. So I think in the very beginning, there was this real fine line between me trying to make sure that my team wasn't tone deaf to the situation. And I think that was like our biggest pivot, because like one of my biggest segments is Tinder Tuesday, where people call in about getting their toes sucked and all this weird stuff. And then it's like, but Ashley, are you sure you should be talking about that when there's a pandemic going on? So the first like couple weeks, we were really trying to figure out a good balance of making sure that I was being knowledgeable and understanding the situation, but also keeping people entertained. And I think the pivot came because as we kept going and as we kept learning and people were in quarantine, you know, we started to learn that people were like, no, like we don't come to you, Ashley Feldman, to learn what the CDC is saying. Ashley, no one wants to, we don't care, like you're not Fauci. So that was actually that made me very happy, because I was like, I'm just reading what I'm seeing or what I'm seeing on the news. So that was kind of cool to kind of be able to go back to doing what our bread and butter is and what we're good at. But I do think that we still sometimes struggle. One segment that we do now is called Corona Check-In, and that's been our biggest segment throughout all of this. And I kind of turn the mic over to people to call in and tell me about their quarantine, or, you know, how they're holding up. Like, for instance, I had one woman call and she's like, I haven't smoked a cigarette in years, and I'm in my car right now. I hate my husband. And like, we just died. So we're like, okay, we have to do this. We have to let people call and complain, because this is fantastic. This chick was just puffing cigs and calling me. It was great. So I would say that was our biggest thing, just trying to still be funny and entertaining, but also acknowledging the fact that like this is a really effed up situation, and we know that. And another thing that I noticed, especially being in charge of a team, was for me, like gauging the temperature of my team and like their fatigue level, if that makes sense to you guys. Like I could tell sometimes like we needed a mental health day, and I would text my boss and be like, we need to have off on Monday, because we actually extended the show. Instead of going 6 to 10, we went 6 to 11, because we did a few studies and we noticed like if people had work at 9 and they were working from home, they were getting up at 8:50. Like, why would you would put on your tie-dye sweats and you would just go to work. There would be no reason for you to get up early and shower. Who wants to do that? So we stayed on later for those people. And after a while, when the main topic that everyone wants to talk about is Corona, like you do start to get tired. There would be times where my producer would be like, all right, Ashley, you have to talk in 10 seconds. What are we talking about? And I would literally grab the mic and be like, I don't know. Like we've exhausted all of our options here. So I've just been really mindful of them. And when I can tell that we're kind of getting to the point where like we need a break, thank God I have a boss who's like super supportive of that. So I not to say that I'm selfish, but I feel like I was never really noticing things like that. And I think you probably all have noticed where you have days where you're like, this is fucked up. Like I'm just not well today. And I notice that my team has days like that. So I think I'm more conscious of that too.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's true. Like every day is different. And like,
yeah,
some days you're okay, and other days it like hits you like a Mack truck. And I feel like one of the big keys to surviving this has been just like self-awareness and listening to yourself, and like giving yourself what you need. Like some days you just need nothing, and other days you need to move, and other days you need to eat a sleeve of cookies, and like that's all okay. Like if it's helping you like survive and get through the next day, then like do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think like too, I don't know if you guys felt like this, but the first month of quarantine, it was like, oh, well, Jenny's neighbor's mom's grandmother has Corona. And then for some reason, like the second month, it was like, my cousin has Corona. It like took a turn where then you knew someone directly. And I think that was when it really started to hit a lot of people, especially like in my building. So I had to start being real conscious of that.
Yeah, I think we've all like had to process the different levels of reality at different times based on like how it's hit us. And like it's like I said, it's like one of those things where we're not all in the same boat, we're all in the same storm.